Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The New York Knicks pulled a reverse Reggie Miller on the Philadelphia 76ers. The LA Clippers took an early advantage over Luka and the Mavericks. Plus, the Chicago Bears are doing for Caleb Williams what they never completely committed to with Justin Fields. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
With a shade under 50 seconds at Madison Square Garden on Monday night, the Philadelphia 76ers had won. They'd even their series with the 2-seed New York Knicks. Except they didn't. And the Knicks end on an 8-0 run. They steal game 2 and take a commanding 2-0 lead over the 7-seed Philadelphia 76ers. Gavin Shaw from Locked On Knicks joins me now. And Gavin, hopefully you've taken a breath since the end of this game. But I can't imagine the last 50 seconds you took too many. Walk us through how the Knicks were able to absolutely steal this one.
Yeah, Peter, I have some terrified neighbors right now. I'll leave it at that. There's a lot of a few different cops came by, asked if someone had been murdered in my apartment. I said, nope, just the Philadelphia 76ers. Wow. Extraordinary finish to this game. To your point, like you are only exaggerating that the Sixers won this game by 4%. They had a 96% win expectancy after Kyle Lowry's first free throw went down. Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, Isaiah Hartenstein, those are and I guess Jalen Brunson as well. Those are the names that loom in my mind. Josh Hart finding a way to grab that loose ball after Brunson seemingly dribbled away game 2 for the Knicks. Dante DiVincenzo having the wherewithal to attack, kick it to Brunson. Brunson, who had missed 4 shots in the final 2 minutes, part of an 8-29 game, part of a 15 for 56 start to this series. But that 15th make, that 56 shot was a 3 off front iron. And then, of course, we know what happens next. Isaiah Hartenstein, after the Knicks miraculously get Tyrese Maxey to lose the basketball, DiVincenzo missed 3. Hartenstein, rebound of his life in heavy traffic, kick out. DiVincenzo makes the second one. Hartenstein block on the other end, 2 OG free throws, and we're home free for the Knicks.
This feels like proof of concept to me because going into the playoffs, you'd go, okay, it's Jalen Brunson and a bunch of high-end role players. And maybe that's selling someone like OG Anunoby a little bit short. He's a really, really good player, but he's not a star. And so you have, to your point, this start from Jalen Brunson. He has not been the guy that we saw for most of the season who got and will get MVP votes. And yet they're up 2-0 on the team that everyone was supposedly scared to play.
Yeah. I almost don't have the words for it because Jalen Brunson, I'm biased because I watch every game, but I would say he carried as bigger of a load post the Julius Randle injury than any star in the league. And he was the sole shot creator, consistent shot creator anyways, on this roster. And he's been nothing short of terrible these first 2 games. It's not to say he hasn't had good moments. Obviously the 3 stands out and good plays, but the extraordinary shot making that has propelled him to stardom and maybe a top 5 MVP finish this year has utterly abandoned him. And what makes this team incredible and what proves that what Tom Thibodeau always says, which is whenever anyone asks about injuries, he says, we have enough. And the Knicks just always seem to have enough. And whether it's Hartenstein turning into one of the more impactful defenders in basketball, one of the great, apparently big game rebounders in basketball, Josh Hart is almost like a movie character. Like I wouldn't have been surprised to have seen him in the Space Jam remake because he's not really a shooter. But when the Knicks were desperate and probably would have lost this game in the first half, he pulls 4 threes out in the first half. And Dante DiVincenzo, one of his best defensive performances of the season, caps it off with that extraordinary shot. I can tell you even about Deuce McBride, who showed more off the dribble in this game than I've ever seen from him. But they find a way. It's cliche, but it's the simplest way to put it.
And this has been how they've won all season. Like they didn't do anything on Monday night that we had not seen all season long from this Knicks team. It's not like they went into the playoffs and all these guys are playing above their head. We saw this day in and day out with them.
I mean, what was it? Game 1 rebounds on half their missed shots. I mean, the transition points, they've survived these games despite shooting terribly from the field, despite getting essentially nothing from Brunson. And to your point, I go back to, I think it was in February, a game against the Cavs, where it appeared in the first minute of the game, Jalen Brunson's season was over, like non-contact injury, grabbing his knee, and the Knicks pulled that game out with no Julius Randle. And it was over and over again. These games they had no business winning, no business even being in, and they'd always be there at the end. And they'd always seemingly have a shot at the end. It's a credit to Tom Thibodeau, but it's also in the sense that this team is built from guys who have extraordinary mental toughness, extraordinary competitive spirit. And I think that is the separator. It is the intangibles. Because from a talent perspective, even with Joel Embiid in a hobbled state, they probably shouldn't be beating this team. They probably shouldn't have won a game with Jalen Brunson playing the way he has.
Stay up to date all year on the New York Knicks by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Knicks on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the Clippers stunned in Game 1 without Kawhi. Before we get to that, the Broncos are acquiring the other Jets quarterback. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, pun intended, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets, guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. You can combine the prop bets from a game into one and have a same game parlay for an even bigger payout. The Bucks shot the lights out as Damian Lillard led them to a Game 1 win over the Pacers. Game 2, though, still close on the spread. FanDuel has the Bucks favored to hold home court advantage by just a point. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. The Denver Broncos are acquiring Zach Wilson from the New York Jets. This move opens up possibilities for Denver at 12. Let's be honest, doesn't really change much with what they're going to do at 12. As our Locked On Broncos hosts point out.
The addition of Zach Wilson, it shouldn't eliminate the Broncos from going with the quarterback, whether that's round 1 or whether that's the later rounds. Here's what I believe is probably going to be the more realistic option here for Denver, Sayre. I think, as you mentioned, other positions, other players now, there's an opportunity to be had. Look, you go back to the 2019 NFL draft, what happened? The Broncos had a pretty decent pick in that year's draft, but they traded down with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think Denver moved back, if I'm not mistaken. Didn't they move back to the 19th overall pick? They got tight end Noah Fant, but they required an additional second-round pick where they ended up getting Dalton Reisner and Drew Lock. Not going to be a similar situation, but Denver could ideally in this situation here. Teams are interested in trading up. There are some teams behind Denver that obviously are interested in that. Let's say hypothetical situation. One of those teams calls. They want Denver's 12th pick, but in exchange, like Denver's obviously going to get whatever first-round pick that they have in the later rounds or maybe even in the 20s of the NFL draft. But in order to move up to 12, you also got to give us your second-round pick, which gives Denver some flexibility.
The Orlando Magic have fallen down 2-0 to the Cleveland Cavaliers as the series shifts south.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic, coming to you here from Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse as the Orlando Magic fall to the Cleveland Cavaliers 96-86. A game that, again, the final margin probably doesn't say how wide the margin actually was in this game because Orlando was climbing uphill again. And quite simply, the Cavs have forced the Magic to make all the adjustments, and they've taken the Magic out of their game. At the end of the day, as everyone in the locker room said, it comes down to making shots, and the Magic are not making shots right now to loosen the defense, and that's making everything that much harder. Really, it's about the Magic finding kind of the joy and finding the intensity and aggressiveness that define their season, and Cleveland's done a great job taking them out of that. They've locked out the paint. Jared Allen's been a monster on the glass, a monster in the paint, and Orlando has been unable to loosen that up with shooting. Right now, the Cavs have all the answers and the Magic have none of them, and that's why the Magic are down 2-0, heading back to Orlando.
Kansas City Chiefs have signed coach Andy Reid, general manager Brett Veach, and president Mark Donovan to contract extensions for, quote, many years to come.
The implications of these extensions, does one stand out to you? Mark Donovan, Andy Reid, Brett Veach, all got extended the same night.
Yeah, and I think they've been working on it for a long time. Obviously, Andy Reid signing through 2029. At this point, he's going to be 71 when that contract would be up. So, obviously, I don't think that we have to worry about him retiring anytime soon. That's a great deal for Kansas City. You're sitting here in a situation where now you think you have your coach locked up for the next 5 years, and he's already got the best QB in the NFL. He's already got one of the best GMs in the NFL who is also locked up through 2029. And they're going for a three-peat. And it all starts Thursday night when the draft happens. All of this is great news for Kansas City. And they also locked up Mark Donovan for the long term. And I know a lot of people aren't going to care about that or won't like it. But I think he's done a good job as president as well.
On the playoff ice, the New York Islanders look to even the series with the Carolina Hurricanes.
Gil Martin of Locked On Islanders here. The Islanders blow a 3-0 lead in Carolina in game 2 and fall 5-3 with the last goal being an empty netter. This was embarrassing. This was unacceptable. This was devastating to the New York Islanders. They played well enough early on to have that 3-0 lead and then to finish the game with only 12 shots on goal and only 5 of those shots coming after the first 20 minutes of the game is a recipe for disaster. And in the end, the Islanders could not hold the lead, ended up having the game tied and won in rapid succession in the final 3 minutes of the game. And they fall down 2-0 in the series now.
And on the diamond, it didn't take long at all for Yankees manager Aaron Boone to get ejected from Monday's shutout loss to the A's.
The umpire told Boone to be quiet because he was arguing. I believe he was arguing that a swing should have been a swing and it shouldn't have been a hit by pitch because the guy swung at the pitch when he got hit. I believe that's what happened. And Hunter Wendelstadt, his father, Harry, was a Major League umpire too. So he's a Nepo baby. Let's just say it. He's a Nepo baby. And he basically told Boone to be quiet. Boone was quiet.
You can forgive the LA Clippers for feeling like underdogs in their first round matchup with the Dallas Mavericks. No Kawhi Leonard. Well, turns out no problem. A game 1 beatdown. They hold the Mavericks to 8 points in the second quarter. They win 109-97, thanks in large part to James Harden, 28 and 8 in this one. Ivica Zubac had 20 and 15 rebounds. Darian Vaziri from Locked On Clippers joins me now. And Darian, what went right in this game for the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard?
Just about everything. And I think just about everything went wrong for Dallas. I mean, they were missing dunks. They were missing layups. And there's always two sides to every story. Dallas fans are going to say that they just missed a bunch of shots, and that's very much true. And they're going to definitely play better. But then the Clipper fans are going to say the defense was good, and they just played amazing. And we absolutely did. And I think one of the biggest keys was establishing Ivica Zubac offensively early. That's one thing we've never really done in the playoffs is go to Ivica Zubac offensively and say, hey, Zoo, you go score. We usually just use him as a screener, pick and roll guy. But throwing him the ball and saying, go score, he was dominating Daniel Gafford. And in the past, like in 2021, when the Clippers played Dallas, the Mavericks were able to put Ivica Zubac in the pick and roll, guarding Luka Doncic, and would play him off the floor. And that's been a big topic of conversation. Can the Mavericks play Zubac off the floor with the Clippers not having the same small ball options if that happens to counter it? But establishing Ivica Zubac early, you mentioned the 20 and 15. He was awesome all game. Then James Harden, his first game as a Clipper, playoffs, and passed with flying colors. And a lot of it was attacking Luka Doncic and going at him one-on-one. And God, he could not stay in front of James Harden. And James Harden had the 3-ball going. So put those two together. Great defense from everybody else. Paul George with a quiet 22 points and great defense. Like, can't say anything more about the team, but I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, and this is a game where the Mavericks got 64 combined points from Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic. Like, they couldn't have done much more. It was the other guys who couldn't come through for them. PJ Washington, 4 from 10, 2 of 7 from three-point range. And you mentioned the shooting. They shoot just 30% from 3 in this game. the formula that we saw, Kyrie and Luka are going to get theirs. Make sure you close out to shooters, and then James Harden run the offense, do that work on the other end. Is this a sustainable formula, you think, without Kawhi Leonard in this series?
I don't know if the Clippers can win the series without Kawhi Leonard. I'm kind of just taking it one game at a time in the sense of, we don't even know if Kawhi's going to play on Tuesday.
That's the hard part, right? Like we don't have any idea what's going on.
If we were to play without Kawhi in game 2, I'd say, yes, more of the same. Don't change anything. But of course, Dallas is going to come with some new stuff. And as far as Kyrie and Luka's stats, I think their stats actually do them. It's the opposite of don't do them justice. It gives them too much credit. They didn't play well, in my opinion. I mean, Kyrie had a good third quarter, but they were shooting a lot of jump shots, a lot of contested jump shots that the Clippers were able to hold them to. They weren't really getting in the paint. They weren't making the Clipper defense have to collapse so much. It just never felt as though the Clippers were in danger. And I never feel like that playing against Luka Doncic. So I don't think that'll happen again many more times. Maybe one other time in this series, you'll have a bad game. But I don't think Luka Doncic played very well. And Kyrie Irving, he started playing low and it was just a little too late. So even though the other guys need to give them more, I think Luka and Kyrie need to give them more as well if they want to beat the Clippers with or without Kawhi, especially in Los Angeles.
I think an underrated part of this game, Russell Westbrook comes in, plays 23 minutes. He has been such a difference maker for them. You could feel the difference when he was not coming off the bench for them, providing that energy. There is a different vibe when he is in the game, especially in front of a home crowd. What did you see from Russ in this one?
I mean, you mentioned it right there in front of the home crowd. I mean, this guy is just the electric factor. You know, at the games, I was at the game, of course, but we all gave him, big ovation when he came in the game. But he immediately starts interacting with the crowd. And during a playoff atmosphere, that's amazing. And then he's doing it on the defensive end. He's getting to the basket, 2 for 4 from 3. When Russell Westbrook has things going, he just affects the game in so many ways. And it just uplifts not just the players on the court, but the fans off the court. I'm just very thankful, being a fan of him for so long, to have him on my team now. He's a UCLA guy. He's a local guy. And it's really a dream come true. The only tough part is sometimes you don't get to see him play as much as you want, because I think he does bring more to the table than some people give him credit for, because he obviously has his flaws and he gets punished playing time-wise for those flaws. But one game into the playoffs, so far so good for Russ, and I'm very happy with that.
Stay up to date all year on the LA Clippers by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Clippers on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, the Bears are doing something for Caleb Williams that they never did for Justin Fields. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep. You lift your head up and you say to yourself, it's time to get back in the game, pull off some bank heist, and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash mobile hit Monopoly Go lets you compete with your friends to get the most riches and the biggest empire. It's the Monopoly you love, but on your phone. Anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do. Play on countless dynamic Monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. Charge other players rent for your iconic properties. That's a Monopoly standard. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there. Put on your game face and download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. The Chicago Bears will officially make Caleb Williams the #1 overall pick on Thursday night. As Lauren Cox from Locked On Bears tells Locked On NFL host Kevin Ostreicher, they built a solid support system around him in year one.
They always had it in the back of their mind that ever since the general manager Ryan Poles came in a couple of years ago, certainly they were building around Justin Fields, but at some point you're really building around the quarterback position, whoever that quarterback is going to be. So they really took this sort of slow tear down and build back up process that we were all kind of under the impression it's like, great, this is going to benefit Justin Fields, but Fields never really took that next step. And now, okay, Fields is gone, but you've got this scenario around a quarterback that feels like, all right, this is as good as you could hope for a #1 overall pick. And it's my understanding that there's been not necessarily that it's been like direct communication with Caleb Williams and his camp about like the specific moves that the team should do. Like Caleb Williams is not the one who made them trade for Keenan Allen, but there's been a certain level of communication between both sides about making sure that they're taking clear demonstrative steps to show Caleb Williams, hey, we are committed to building around you and investing multiple, big, highly paid weapons and new players on the offensive line. So they had a big running back for him, another tight end. Like, they've really gone and got weapons across the board for Caleb, and still could with, the 9th overall pick. They could add another wide receiver there, or maybe even a tight end like Brock Bowers, or a left tackle. Like, I think we're going to see even more investment around the quarterback at some point in the draft after they take Caleb, even if it's not the 9th overall pick.
I find this all a little funny, just a little funny, because last year, Bears fans would tell you, and trust me, I know this, I cover the Packers. Bears fans will tell you that they were finally going to get to learn about Justin Fields. They were finally ready to compete. The Packers had fallen off, and it was the Bears with DJ Moore and Cole Kmet and this terrific backfield, and they made some changes to the offensive line. They drafted Darnell Wright, top 10, and it was all ready to go. And then Justin Fields failed again, as he has over and over and over. The Bears this offseason, they went and got Keenan Allen, and they're going to have another top 10 pick to buttress Caleb Williams, presumably. But they have that top 10 pick because Justin Fields stunk. If Justin Fields was good, they wouldn't have been in a position to have another top 10 pick to go get a Rome Odunze if that's what they want to do, or an Olu Fashanu if that's what they want to do, to buttress Caleb Williams. This was not a failure of imagination. This was not a failure of trying to put enough around Justin Fields. The failure was on Justin Fields. Shane Waldron and Keenan Allen, albeit a very good player still, was not going to be the difference between Justin Fields' success or failure. And we saw that over and over in Chicago when other quarterbacks, especially in Matt Nagy's system, Andy Dalton performed better than Justin Fields. Nick Foles performed better than Justin Fields. Anyone you threw out there that wasn't Justin Fields performed better than Justin Fields, including Tyson Bagent. This was not a support problem. Caleb Williams will have a lot more support than most number 1 overall picks. He won't have that much more support than Justin Fields had. He'll just probably be a better player. And finally, John Lynch wanted everyone to know where he stands before anyone asked. At his annual pre-draft news conference, Lynch said, "I've communicated on many occasions. Our wish is that Brandon Ayuk is here and part of the Niners for the rest of his career. At the end of the day, it'll come down to if the Niners can sign him long-term, but Lynch is echoing a feeling that Coach Kyle Shanahan has had for an entire year. Are they trading Ayuk? Probably not. Will Lynch and Shanahan get their wish? As Ayuk intimated on Instagram recently, money talks. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? You have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports today, will the Pacers even the series, or will the Giannis-less Bucks get a 2-game advantage? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.